Good evening, everyone, and thank you all for joining us for Reiki 101 tonight. We're so excited to have Angelika with us. She is a certified Reiki master teacher in Usu Reiki and the owner of Reiki and Tea in Union City. She'll be presenting an introductory lesson about Reiki and chakras tonight. And if you would like, if you haven't already, write us in the chat about your experience with Reiki. Is it your first time learning about Reiki? Have you ever done Reiki before? Also, feel free to type in the chat or in the Q&A box any comments or questions you have throughout the chat. We're going to be doing a Q&A session at the end, mostly probably 10-15 minutes. If you want to learn more about the library's virtual programs, just go to our website, nbpl.org, or you can follow us on social media. We're usually at NBP Library. Thank you all again. And now I'm going to give the floor over to Angelika. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ali. It's an absolute honor and a pleasure to be here with you tonight. I remember when Ali first contacted me at the beginning of February saying you would be interested in doing a session like this. And honestly, such an honor every time someone asks to learn a little bit about Reiki, to get an introduction, any individual that I talk to. And especially with a group like this and somewhere local, right? I'm in Union City, you're in the North Bergen, so thank you. I looked in the chat and I saw there's a couple of you, it's your very first time hearing about Reiki today. That's excellent. Wherever you are at, whether you've heard the word before, whether you have no idea what it even means, whether a friend has done it and has recommended it, but you're not quite sure, I'm here to just pick you up where you're at and take you a few steps further on that journey of learning about Reiki. So that's my own personal intention for today. That's what I was thinking about as I was putting together the information. What I will do today with you is I'll first of all talk a little bit about myself, only so that you have the background of my own journey, because I think it will help you understand everything else from there. Then I'll take some time to talk specifically about Reiki. And then we'll cover a little bit about history, where it comes from, what it helps with, and essentially all the things that would have helped me find out about Reiki when I first started finding out about Reiki. And I had to demystify the space myself. Then I'll take you from there onto the world of chakras. You'll see that the flow is designed in that way because once we've talked about Reiki and what we're doing, we do tend to work a lot with the chakras. It makes sense to then talk about the chakras and give you an introduction on that too. I've designed it again in such a way that I'll actually give you a background that gives you, I think, a deeper understanding of the whole, so you can go and do some onward reading from there too. So let's just get right into it. I'll click here, see if the slides are moving. Yes, they are. All right, so a little bit about me. If you've spotted the accent, I was actually born and raised in Germany. I've put that little symbol underneath there because yes, I was taught in school over there, but also, little fun fact, over there, I did train to become a primary teacher. I have plenty of friends in Germany still, and one of those friends, I want to say about 13, 14 years ago, said to me, I've just started going to Reiki sessions. It's amazing, you should do it. And I said, that sounds great, and never asked her anything else about it. And then in fact, I never actually had my first Reiki session until 4 years ago. And so part of my intention here today is so that when you first hear about Reiki, it doesn't take you 10 years to get to the point of understanding a little bit more. So to go from where I came from in Germany, I then moved to the UK. I spent about 10 years in the UK. Again, the accent perhaps gives it away. It's a bit of a mishmash these days. I went to university over there, got my degree. I started out in the hotel industry, working in corporate over there for the largest hotel group in the world, local to here, you might know them. I actually got very much into the analytics work of it. So that's how I also moved to the US about almost 6 years ago now. And I took a job in analytics with them over here. Very much, that side of the brain. I was essentially just not where I'm at today. I needed to create that balance in my life. And that's what happened over the past 5 years, actually. That's where Reiki entered into my world. For me, it was a period of time where I got really sick. I had been on 2 courses of antibiotics already and not gotten better in over 6 weeks. And I was ready to try anything. And there was a friend of mine over here, not the friend in Germany, who said to me, oh, my Reiki master in Hoboken, she would be absolutely great for you to go to get your healing started. And I'll happily admit at this point, I heard the word Reiki again. And I said, I'll try anything, absolutely. But I had to look it up. I Googled it and I went, what do they actually do? Like, is this a session where I sit? Do I have to do stretches? 15 years before, when my friend in Germany told me, I was actually imagining people Nordic walking when I heard the term Reiki. I had no idea what it meant and I was too shy to ask. And I think she, also my friend, was too shy to just say, okay, Reiki is this experience, it's got to do with energy and la, 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 la. Because it's sometimes hard to talk about if you're just on the receiving end and you're not actually a full-on Reiki master. So, yeah, I went to my first Reiki session and actually asked the Reiki master what was about to happen physically, So I have made it my mission from there on to also, as I take in new clients, as I work with anyone, to make everything so clear and easy along the way. I kind of work from the understanding that anyone else is probably where I was at, going, I don't know what you're about to do. So that's where we're going to start. I don't want anyone else to think like I did that this is Nordic walking. It's not. So we're talking about Reiki today. And I actually set up my own Reiki practice called Reiki NT 2 years ago, just after I'd become a Reiki master and teacher, finally out in Bali. I did my last trainings over there. And you'll learn all about that today. So here is what Reiki is. Well, you've already noticed that we actually pronounce it Reiki. I do love to put that up because people sometimes struggle with it. And just hearing it, some people need to see it. It's a combination of 2 words, Rei and Ki. Rei, universal, and Ki, very much like Chi, or how you sometimes know it, life force energy. So what does that mean? Life force energy, the way I tend to describe it, think about when you were born, when you didn't have any words yet, the energy that was in you, the purest form of energy. What was there? What was there at that time? Perhaps you can take that and envision it as life force energy. So I told you I would pick you up at the point of, well, what do you actually do in Reiki? Here's a picture. This is me during my training, practicing a hand position. In Reiki, the person who is receiving Reiki, the person who is actually receiving the healing and the energy, is laying on a massage table, fully clothed. Sometimes you might have a blanket on yourself just to be comfortable. Sometimes you can choose to. I have eye pillows as well, like in this picture, just so your eyes are closed, so you don't have to think about, are my eyes going to be fluttering or not? You might fall asleep, you might stay awake. That is how you would be lying on the table during a Reiki session. You have the definition there on the left. It's actually a form of energy healing. And we use our hands to channel energy into the body of the patient. So very important to say here, I'm not giving my own energy. I'm actually functioning as a channel at that point. So I'm the vessel that the energy does come through. I know how to access it and how to give it and direct it. And I know how to work with someone's energy. I know how to read it, feel it, and work with it. So that's what the therapist does. For that, it's very important and when you go to your first session, actually, we always ask for the permission. If we do hands-on Reiki, where I might lay my hand on your shoulder, you might feel my hand by the side of your face, I might be touching or I might be hovering. So it's very important that I actually ask for permission to touch. I would never touch someone in any area where, is highly uncomfortable, and I would always talk in advance about, would you like me to hover? Would you like me to touch? What we do with that, of course, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, is we don't just work with the physical body, we work with body, mind, and spirit in the process of this healing. But how is the question that I can already hear. So Ali said it very right at the start. I actually practice Usui Reiki. Usui Reiki is the original form of Reiki. It goes back to Dr. Mikao Usui in Japan. And you have a little bit of information there on the screen about him right now. He was a doctor, he was a Buddhist monk, practicing, and he, throughout his lifetime, was looking for a way, a technique to help heal people. It was actually relatively late during his life that he went to Mount Karana, and he was fasting and meditating for 21 days there. It was during that time, at the end of that time, that he received the Reiki symbols, that he had this light come through him and understood how this works. That's about as much as I can say at this point without giving you the full story that you learn in Reiki Level 1 if you want to start giving Reiki, about the history of Dr. Usui. You can read about him online as well. There's a lot written about him, but what I want you to take away from here actually is there are many other forms of Reiki that you sometimes hear about. Karuna Reiki, there's a form of Kundalini Reiki I recently heard about, but all of them do go back to Dr. Usui. So that's the important part to understand here that I kind of want you to take away. In Reiki, the master teaches the student, and with that, as a student, you are part of their lineage. You pass along the ability to channel Reiki and to heal with Reiki from master to student. And so Dr. Mikao Usui passed his first Reiki attunement to Dr. Hayashi, who started a clinic in Japan. And Dr. Hayashi, as a patient, had a lady called Hawaya Takada, who was very sick, kind of had no hope, and came from Hawaii over to Japan. Her life changed during those sessions. And she went on to herself learn how to give and channel Reiki. She then went over to the West, as we say. She went back to Hawaii and started teaching other people. And that was really how Reiki was introduced to the Western world. Most Reiki lineages nowadays go back through those three. That's why I put them up there. I myself am a 10th generation Reiki master, meaning the numbers you can see here on the screen, 1, 2, 3. So there are 6 more people in between until number 10. It's me in that lineage. I think it's a wonderful, beautiful thing to also think about when you receive your Reiki attunements, how each one of these masters has laid hands in healing on their student and passed along the healing. So I did mention one word here that you're going to learn a little bit more about in a moment, and that is the word attunement. That's got a lot to do with how you're being taught Reiki. So when we learn to give Reiki, we first enter as a level 1. That's the first training we take. At each training, we do learn a lot about, you saw me there practicing a hand position. We learn how to scan the body. We learn how to channel and how to direct the energy. We learn symbols. But what essentially happens right at the start is we get an attunement. And an attunement is, the best way I can describe it is like learning to notice something that you didn't notice before. It's as though you're learning to dial into a certain radio station. If you remember those radios where you kind of had to turn the dial yourself, it's as though you're dialing into a radio station you didn't know that was there before. And now you know it's there, you can dial into it every time. So an attunement is a process whereby the student actually sits in meditation and the master is passing the attunement to the student. That's the opening to any of these levels. There's a lot of teaching going on over a day or two, but the attunement, that's the key to actually being able to channel Reiki. So when you're a level 1, you are then practicing on yourself, you're practicing on family, perhaps some friends, but anyone that you might want to go and see to receive Reiki from, I would highly recommend asking where they're at. They should at least be at a level 2. They should know that as well. Anyone that does take level 1 always gets made aware. Like, this is for you to do self-healing, perhaps a little bit of family and some practice. But do your 21 days of self-healing. That's really important right after the class. That's when you integrate the energy. That's when you practice self-healing that enables you to really embody the energy going forward. And then after some time, you can take level 2. Level 2 is when you're okay to practice with others. Level 2 is when you learn about aspects of Reiki, such as the sacred symbols that sadly, sometimes we see them online or printed in some books as well. We like to pass these along truly from master to student. And I am glad and lucky that I only got to see them by the time I had my level 2 training. But yes, that is how we pass along the learning from master to student. And after the level 2 training, again, 21 days of integrating the energy, self-healing. We actually, during that time, also abstain from alcohol and anything like that. It's truly a time of fasting and going inward. Then, if you want to, you can also become a master. And after becoming a master, also a teacher, which again, teacher then knows how to pass an attunement down to a student. I've put here the little symbol for you of the IARP, which is the association where we as Reiki professionals register. I, for example, have this on my website as well. If you're looking for someone to work with, to go to for Reiki, that's a good accreditation to look for. So what I want to give you as a background here too is, well, what does happen in a session? I'm going to tell you by an example of how I do it. 2 different versions. Number 1, an in-person session, and then I'll talk about a distance session as well, because it's COVID and we've been doing this for years as well before COVID on distance. But let's talk through the in-person session first. So normally an in-person session with me takes about 90 minutes in total. 60 minutes of that, you'll actually be receiving Reiki. What happens is that in the beginning, when you come in, you'll actually be talking to the person who's giving Reiki. If you think back to where I told you my very first Reiki experience, that is when I asked, what are we about to do? Am I going to be sitting, standing, dancing around? What's happening? And I was very lucky that she had a beautiful, calming way of talking me through what was about to happen. And ultimately, obviously, I was very sick at that point, and that was a monumental shift that then happened following that session for me. And she was very good at explaining to me what was about to happen and what I would be able to expect afterwards, which, by the way, I fell asleep for 12 hours after that session. So that chat at the start is really important, especially if it's someone's first time. You really want to make sure that they feel comfortable. If you're thinking about having Reiki with someone and you're not quite sure, it's always good also to give them a call and just talk to them and see how you feel about them. Then at the beginning of the session, you would expect to be lying down, like you see the picture here. That's actually me during one of my Reiki sessions where I received. You can see that I'm actually face down at this point. I usually start a session by having the person lying face up, like with that eye pillow you saw at the start. I start with a gentle meditation. So I might use some essential oils just to inhale, like to give you an easy start into the relaxation. Important here, whether you fall asleep or whether you stay awake or whether your thoughts are racing, that doesn't matter. The energy will work with your body anyway. Be your authentic self in that situation, is what I tend to say. Don't force yourself to stop thinking. You're just probably going to tense up. Don't fight it if you're falling asleep. Don't go like, oh, no, I need to stay awake. Just let it happen. And the practitioner will be working with your energy during that time. So then you might feel a light touch of a hand. Could be on your shoulders, could be on your belly, might be on your knees, your feet, around your face. And yes, halfway through the session, I do tend to ask, also at the start, if people prefer that, I would ask them to turn around, have the headrest there, see truly you can be very comfortable lying face forward, and we would then also perform Reiki on your back. What you see in the picture there are crystals, which I tend to use during the session as well. You'll hear a little bit more about crystals to do with the chakras in a moment, because what we do in each session, let's start talking about it, is we do work with the chakras that are in your body, the 7 chakras. We actually, I will know if there's any blockages. I can actually shift. I will know if there's something overactive, underactive there, and shift that energy. You might feel it. I'll most definitely feel it. And then at the end of the session, I tend to very lightly tap someone on the shoulder and tell them, all right, the session's come to an end. I'll leave the room now. This is your time. Enjoy waking up. And I will step outside and I won't be back for another probably 5 minutes, because I like to have people slowly wake up and not stare me in the face straight away. That might, for some people, not be so comfortable. Other practitioners might do that differently. This is my style. And I tend to, again, tell people that at the start already. This is how the session will end, and you will come too. In my case, you know, I'm called Reiki and Tea. I'll actually come back with a cup of tea and then we'll have a chat. And we talk about everything that's come through for me, everything that I noticed in my initial scan of the body, anything that was different by the time that I sealed the energy at the end. So there's very specific ways in which I open and close the session. One of those ways at closing, very important, is actually around sealing the energy so that you're not just, you know, this was nice in the moment and now I'm going to get up and just kind of let everything drain into the world around me. We actually want to make sure that the energy continues working with you. So then we talk at the end. We want to make sure, of course, that whoever has just received Reiki has the opportunity to talk about what's just been happening with them. And if I go back to my very first Reiki experience, I remember the very first touch that my master Asha did on my feet. After about 20 seconds, I felt a large, dark wave coming all over my body, and I was just crying. Not scary at all. I felt very, very comforted. I felt as though I was able to safely experience that emotion. And I was just crying. And so that chat at the end was very important for me, especially at that very first experience. Now, I don't always cry when I receive Reiki, not at all, right? I had an emotional release that day. But that chat at the end is ever so important in positioning what's just been occurring, because a lot of the time, this is energy work, people have questions. A very similar thing actually happens when we do distance Reiki. A typical session for me lasts 60 minutes. And I will, in the beginning, connect with someone over a video call. So normally that's either FaceTime or other, use WhatsApp as well. I have clients all the way in like Sioux Falls and across the country and in Florida. So the beautiful thing is with Reiki that it does work across distance as well. That is something we learn later into our journey at level 2. We don't learn that at the start. There's a way of me connecting to your energy. The person has to be receptive to it, of course, and has their intention to it too. It's not like I can just will myself into anyone's energy field. That's why we have, again, the chat at the start. We talk about what's about to happen. We talk about, okay, you are going to lie down away from technology for 30 minutes. And I tend to ask them to set a timer so they can completely relax and not think about, has it been 30 minutes yet? What's going on? Has it time? So they have a timer, they can completely relax into the moment. Same over here. I set the timer for 30 minutes. And at the end, it's not immediately, hi, I'm giving you a call again. It's another few minutes later, as we've both returned, then we will have a chat about everything that's just happened. What does happen during a distance Reiki session, and I appreciate this is really hard to get your head around when you've not even received Reiki in the first place, is as I connect with the energy of someone, I do the very same thing. I scan their field and I then give Reiki at any chakra, in any place where it is needed. And I keep track on my end of what's going on. So I write notes during that time. And when I do connect with the person afterwards, again, after the energy is sealed and the session has ended, then I also share so they can see all the notes that I have. Then I talk about what's been going on in the session. So that is the difference between the two types of session. At the moment, I only do distance sessions. It's got a lot to do with, I've also become a mum in this pandemic. And so I have a 9-month-old, so currently I really with COVID cannot take anyone in person. But these are the types of sessions that we do have here. What happens at the end of it though? So what can you expect that Reiki does do for someone? I think this is a really key thing to answer. There's a lot of people that come to us, of course, with anxieties, physical pains. We have a lot of releases happening during Reiki sessions. A lot of it is about coming back to center, finding a place of calm and clarity. A lot of people find clarity to questions. There is, I want to position this correctly because Hackensack University Medical Center uses it in that way too. We also work with cancer patients. A lot of the time, so I want to clarify, it's in addition to their medical treatment. A lot of the time Reiki is used to actually enable the body to self-heal. So something important I want you to take away here is around the terminology that you sometimes hear, which is that I've been healed, I go to a healer makes me healed. That is not my philosophy, that's not what I have learned. Reiki is about enabling your body to work at its best. It's about enabling your energy field to be in flow, and therefore your immune system also to come to life and spring into action and do its job. So when I went to my very first session, it's not that I was healed in that moment instantly there. I know that after that session, my immune system was able to do its job. And that's why I slept for such a long time afterwards. And that's why I had such a headache on the evening after it happened. And the next day I started feeling like, oh, we're really turning a corner here. So we actually sometimes say that even if someone does come in with a cold and we give them Reiki, we say you might expect this to get a little bit worse a lot quicker than it normally would, because your body will kick in and your immune system will like start doing its job. So that is what you can expect. I've put up a slide here as well of some testimonials of my website, just if, you know, people tend to also want to look there to what do people say? What did they physically experience? Do they feel warmth? Do they feel touch? A lot of the time people feel ghost hands, as in, you know, I've already moved on from saying my hand was on someone's chest and I've moved on to their feet, and now they're wondering why there's 3 or 4 hands on their body. All of that stuff does happen. The important thing though is also that stuff doesn't need to happen for you to have proof that Reiki works. I think any Reiki practitioner should have a deep understanding of that too, because if we were just looking to verify all the time what we're doing is working, that would just be exhausting, and it would just not be in alignment with what we're trying to achieve, which is focus on the person, focus on their energy field, and we are completely just a channel to the pure life force energy to work with their field. Anything else does not matter at that moment. So Reiki is really truly a catalyst in a person's holistic healing. It's about experiencing emotions in a safe way. And it's about shifting blockages, for example, in the chakras. So this is where we shift gears a little bit and we move on to the chakras. What are chakras to begin with? So the chakras were first mentioned in the Vedas. If you've not heard about those, they're like, imagine 4 books written around 1500 BC in the Hinduism world. And they first mentioned the term chakras, which means energy wheel. Now, the fact that it came about in Hinduism, or this is where it's first mentioned, let's be clear, it doesn't have anything to do with religion, neither does Reiki, by the way. I'm a Roman Catholic. My husband, I think I forgot to talk about that on the first slide. He's from India, hence the surname. He's Hindu. So none of this has anything to do with religion nowadays. Actually, the practice and mentioning of chakra-like systems appears across different cultures over time. Now, what is important in working with chakras is that they're all in flow with one another. You see them here on the screen, and we'll go through them one by one in just a moment. Most of the time, people call the root chakra the first chakra, then sacral the second, solar plexus the third. They call the heart chakra the fourth, throat chakra the fifth, third eye the sixth, and crown the seventh chakra. While I entirely agree that's a great way of referring to it, especially if you're talking about it every day, it's very easy. I find that sometimes when someone's new to it, that doesn't tell the whole story. So what I'm doing with you today, I'm actually talking about it a little bit differently. So let's get to it. I want to talk to you today about actually how the names of the chakras in the first place came about. So when we do go back and we're calling them root and crown and all of that, where does that come from? And why is it called that way? And maybe that will give you a deeper understanding of what these chakras actually are, why they're there. And once you have that understanding, you can then go and find out anything else you want to about it. The reason we hear about them so much nowadays is because, you know, you're doing yoga, for example, and oh, this yoga pose is great for the XYZ chakra. Okay, all right. But a lot of the time people don't know more than that. And so We hear about all of these modalities a lot, like, oh, this crystal is great for that chakra. This singing bowl, that if you play it, that's great for the throat chakra. That's the right frequency for it. Or this is an essential oil that'll be really great for your solar plexus chakra. And yes, that's all true, but I think it's a really hard way to get an entrance to and an understanding to what chakras are and how they work. So we will be talking about all 7 chakras today. The way I've divided them up on the screen for you, a really nice differentiation that is often missed is that the upper chakras are the spiritual chakras, those 3. Those lower 3 are the physical chakras. And right in the middle where they meet is the heart. That's the heart chakra. And you will understand, I hope by the end of this, you're welcome to ask me any questions about it. You will understand why that is important, why they are where they are, how they all work together, how it makes sense. And then if you're interested in learning more about which frequency corresponds with the throat chakra, which mudra, which is a finger position, by the way, is best for this chakra, which chant can I do, which mantra can I recount, which, by the way, mantra is actually a sound that's repeated for concentration during a meditation. It's not, over in the Western world, we often use mantra as slogan, essentially. Like, oh, I see a nice sentence that I like, that's a great mantra. It's used differently, actually. So if you want to go away and learn about all of these different modalities, like which essential oil is great for which chakra, you can do that. I won't walk you through all of them today for all the chakras. I'll give you a little bit of an idea along the way of what my favorite ways of working with these chakras are. But yeah, let's get started with that. As you sometimes see online representations of chakras, people also have another way of labeling these. A very popular way that I wanted to show you is from the root chakra to the crown chakra along the spine is this representation of this is where I reside. I am, I feel, I do, I love, I speak, I see, I know. Sometimes people tend to remember it that way. Perhaps you'll also understand it more deeply once you've seen this. I'll actually start at the crown. So I'll start at the very top. The crown chakra is at the top center of your head. The color of the crown chakra is purple, as you see on the left. And it's actually originally in Sanskrit, in those scriptures in the Vedas, it's called Sahasrara. And Sahasrara means 1,000 petals. Let's think about this. What could 1,000 petals be standing for? These 1,000 petals, 1,000 was a really big number, like almost like I can't imagine how many. These 1,000 petals are our connection to the divine and to everything else, sitting at the crown of our head. So the word crown that we're nowadays using has a lot to do with where it's located. The original meaning actually is 1,000 petals, and it is our connection to the spiritual world, whatever you might want to call it, to God, to the universe. You might want to imagine to every other atom around us, because everything is made of energy, right? One of the ways that we actually, I tend to mention this with the crown chakra, if you want to work with the crown chakra, a lot of people always think, oh, spiritual word, I must chant Om. If you do chant Om, that's actually the mantra for the crown chakra. And a lot of people don't know that. So in working with the divine connection for your body, that is one thing that you can do as a practice. And as you move on to the third eye, which we originally call in Sanskrit Anya. Anya. The translation of that would be to command your view. And the location is, if you have your 2 eyes here, your third eye is in the middle right between your eyebrows. The color of the third eye chakra is a dark blue. You'll see that in most places. And so when we say command the view, this is all about your third eye is your center of your intuition. If you see the energy wheel there, that truly, if you're nice and active there, you are able to receive information from around you. You're in touch with your outer world, essentially. Someone who's very shut down. If someone has a blockage in the third eye chakra, or is very clouded, they're heavy, they're overthinking things. That's how I normally would notice it, for example, in a Reiki session. They almost can't see beyond themselves. Or in colloquial language, we might say they're stuck in their own head, like they can't, get out of your head, get into your heart sort of thing. But someone with a blocked third eye chakra, that is what they're experiencing. And it can be actually it can cause fear in people as well, because they're almost not trusting the world around them at that point. So the location of the third eye chakra is right between your eyes. And a great way of working with it, if you've ever wondered, if you've done yoga, if you've ever wondered why someone might ask you to close your eyes in a certain position, it's not just about balance. That's actually to activate your third eye chakra. Because once you've got those two eyes closed, it's your third eye that becomes aware of your inner world and of everything around yourself as well. And so the third eye is still a connection outwardly and not just so much focused on ourselves. But when we move on to the throat chakra, which we call Vishuddha, that's the original Sanskrit name for it. The meaning of that is pure. So when we think throat chakra, again, location, at least we know where it is, right? Between our collarbone, front of the neck here, that's our throat chakra, color light blue. I guess I'm wearing it today because I'm talking. A great thing that we can do for the throat chakra is chant, sing, write, express ourselves. The throat chakra is about our own expression. So that chakra is actually about ourselves. So we've just gone from the connection to the divine, to the world around us, being aware outward and inwardly, to the throat chakra, which is very much about speaking your own truth, which is a big deal. A lot of the time people even struggle just knowing it in the first place and then expressing it on top of that. That's what happens in the throat chakra. This is about speaking your truth, knowing your truth and speaking it calmly and clearly, actually. So those are the three chakras at the top, the connection to the divine. And then we go to the heart. Anahata. Anahata actually means unhurt. This might take a moment to get your head around. The reason it's called unhurt is actually that this description of anahata initially is about a sound that exists, although nothing has been struck. Sometimes they also call it unstruck in the translation. So imagine a bell that makes a sound, although it hasn't been rung, then nothing has touched, but there is a sound. So almost like there is an energy, although there is no conflict. That's what the heart chakra is about. Heart chakra is about loving yourself and others. The heart chakra is also about the confrontation between the upper chakras, the lower chakras, the divine and the physical chakras, meeting in harmony, unstruck. And that's kind of the connection between the two, where all the balance happens between your own energy field. So the heart chakra is represented in the color green, as you can see here. It's where it all comes together, as I tend to say. It's about compassion and connection with yourself and with others. If you want to do something good for your heart chakra, in terms of crystals, I know a lot of people tend to have a rose quartz around. That's a great crystal to keep in your pocket or to have around for the heart chakra. If you're actually in a healing profession and you don't know this yet, then I would recommend something like a fusite. Always have one. fuse side here, just like this. A lot of the crystals that correspond with the heart chakra are actually green. And in a healing profession, we like to keep the fuse side around for a number of different reasons. Those are just some wonderful crystals that resonate with the heart chakra. Let's move on to those 3 physical chakras at the bottom. I'm just doing a quick time check. I still have enough time to go through these and have time for questions. So Manipura, we're now at the solar. We're actually 2 inches above your belly button, your navel. Manipura is your solar plexus chakra. A lot of the time, if you've done yoga before, you've probably heard about breathing exercises or something like a fire breath that you practice here. What people experience with that, it tends to be kind of this, oh, I get this great rush of energy. Solar plexus, Manipura, is the city of jewels, they say, as in it's about power. It's about having it all there. And that's why it's called that. So this is about your personal power, about self-empowerment, but also self-esteem that happens at the solar. So any kind of self-esteem issues, we tend to see blockages here too, or kind of an underactivity. Something that beautifully works with the solar plexus chakra, by the way, if that's something that rings a bell with you, or you want to work on a citrine crystal, is something that I would recommend there. Or those breathing exercises in yoga, they really do get the job done and the energy moving there just above the navel. It truly is, though, and I want to make this clear, it's, as we're talking about the solar plexus, we're now in the physical chakra world. This is the depth of who we are. This is our power, where we reside. And this is the most me it gets in the physical chakras. The reason I'm saying that is because two inches below your navel is your sacral chakra, Svadhisthana. And that is one's own abode. That's kind of like your own home. It's your emotions, but your emotions also connect you to the outer world. And so again, you're going from the solar, which was very much just about your own power, your own self-esteem, to the sacral, which is a little bit more outward again. These are your emotions that are connected to the rest of the people around you, the rest of the world around you. So what you're dealing with here, as you connect with others and you're experiencing emotions, everything here is around expressing them in a healthy way. And a lot of the time, what we do tend to do for the sacral chakra is healthy release. So for example, dance or a yoga position everyone knows about, even if they've never done it, is the downward dog. That's a great one for the sacral chakra, actually. So sacral chakra is about experiencing your emotions and being in touch with the world around you while also keeping with your own identity. So it's kind of that in between again of just yourself and the outward world. And as we then go to the root chakra, you guessed it, it's called root for a reason. Muladhara directly translates into root. No big description needed here on my part. Color is red. And that is the root, almost like a tree, into the ground, into the earth. The root chakra is about the connection to the earth, to the physical plane. And most importantly, with that, it's about being safe and feeling that you are secure. It's located at the perineum, which is the base of your spine. It also corresponds with your feet. And actually, one of the things, again, that people, even if they haven't done a lot of energy work or don't know much about the spiritual world, lots of people know the, seeing someone with their hands sitting with the hands on their knees like this. That hand position, that mudra, is great for the root chakra. So if there's something that you want to practice for the root chakra, it's that mudra. Or you could walk bare feet. That has a great impact, especially if you can go outside and do that now that it's spring and summer. But that is your connection to the earth. So before I wrap up with questions, we've talked a lot about, the beginning of the journey with Reiki, what we do with this energy work, how we work with your body, what a session looks like, the history of it. There's a lot there, and how we work with the chakras, why chakra work is important. I really hope that you can take away from this understanding about how the chakras are supposed to work together. What a great energy field is supposed to look like, and why we so often have to do work on it, because this world, we constantly have impulses coming into our world and reacting with ours. So there's constantly energy shifts. And if we can work with it, that's obviously of great value. So if you want to stay in touch with what I do, you can find me on Instagram at ReikiNT, or send me an email, angelika@reikiNT.com. And that's my website on the left there as well. But I want to make sure we do take some questions here as well, Ali. So thank you very much for paying attention for such a long time, and for showing up in the first place and showing interest in Reiki and the world of chakras. Let's take some questions.
All right, I do have one question here. And feel free to put your questions in the chat box, in the Q&A. I'll be checking everywhere. They were wondering the colors for the third eye and the throat. And I was also wondering maybe if you can go over maybe those colors again and the reasoning behind that.
Yeah, so the third eye and the throat is a dark indigo blue for the third eye, and the throat a light blue. The reasoning where those colors come from, I love the question. It's actually not something I have ever gotten to the root of. I've never seen that written anywhere, why those colors are chosen. What I would say though, in energy work, a lot of the time, as I'm working with someone, I will also access their field in those colors as I'm in that area. So I wonder if it's influenced by that.
Thank you. We have one more question here too. How many times do you need to attend Reiki sessions? That was actually a question I had for myself too. So thank you very much.
Yeah, it's a question I get a lot. I had a new client last weekend who asked this question too. She's like, oh, I want to come back. What do you recommend? How often? How frequently? My answer to this always is, you will know. There's a reason that I, on my website, for example, don't put, here is this great package of like 3-6 sessions. I think for everyone, that answer is different. When I first went to my first session, I knew I had to go back and that I needed some time at the same time. So I booked for 6 to 8 weeks later, because it was such a big shift that I knew, oh, I'm good for a little bit, but I need more, as in there is more. And I think for me, it was a journey of self-discovery in the process as well, deep healing that happened in those first 6 months. But it is, with all honesty, the simplest answer I can give you is, once you've been to a session, you will know. Some people go more frequently than others. And recently, with COVID, I've only done distance sessions, and I've only received on distance myself as well, and practiced on myself. But I practice daily on myself. It's the benefit of being a master. So.
Jennifer is asking if we can go back to the slide with the I see, I know, and all the chakras going along the side. Maybe if they want to take a screen grab of it.
Oh, absolutely. This is, yeah, often a representation that you find online as well.
We have a great question here from the library. Well, I'm speaking as a librarian. They're asking, are there any books that you can recommend about the chakras or about Reiki?
Yes. One book I would recommend about chakras is, it's called Chakra Healing, I believe. I wonder if I have it somewhere. It's called Chakra Healing. You'll find it on Amazon or in the library, I'm sure, as well. And it's a lady in New York City, Margarita. I'm happy to send it to you afterwards as well, Ali, if you want to
Sure.
Post it.
Yeah, I can also, I have everybody that signed up. So if you want to send me that, I can blast out an email.
Perfect. So that is what I would recommend, sort of as the Chakra Bible, because it has a lot of content on what oils, what poses, yoga poses to use, what, goes through all of that. The downside of it is a little bit repetitive, because for each one it will talk about how to cleanse your crystals, and it's kind of always the same thing. So it's not something you read one on through. It's almost like a handbook you go to, but that's very good. In terms of Reiki, struggle to make a good recommendation there. The best thing you can do, obviously, the most I learned was by the time I was taking my own classes. The IARP website, though, has some very good information about it, too. So I think it's iarp.org.
We have some great questions here tonight. How do we learn to self-heal?
Take level 1. That's where you will, that's the foundation, and where we spend almost a day teaching someone how to do self-healing with Reiki. So you learn to channel, you will feel it in your hands already, and you learn hand poses specifically to practice on yourself.
We also have, I'm wondering the phrasing of this. Do you work with crystals also? I believe that that's what they're trying to say.
I do. Yes, I do use them in every session. I always mention it in advance in case someone wouldn't want to use them, which is something I've never come across. But I do work with crystals as well. A lot of the time, if there's an overactive chakra, for example, I find that in the solar and sacral region a lot. Sometimes I physically cannot go there with my hand at the start, and I place a citrine there to begin with to kind of work with that energy field. So a few minutes later, I go there and I can do my work. So yes, I do work with crystals.
We also have one more. I think we'll do one more question. Where can you learn level 1, and typically how much is it? I think that's the question. That's the phrasing there. Do you teach level 1 at Reiki and Tea? Is there another place that you would go to suggest for that?
Yes. So any Reiki master teacher can teach a level 1 class. I, at the moment, don't do it because I would love to do it in person to pass the attunement. My Reiki master, however, who I learned from in Hoboken, she is doing attunements right now, both in person and also on distance. So if you wanted to learn Reiki level 1, I'm happy to also send those details along. If you wanted to do it right now, I would recommend her. If you can wait, then obviously when this world is a different place again and I can have people around, I will be teaching again.
Great. And then maybe if you can also send us in the email, if you can send me some good essential oils to use for chakra work, because they're asking that question too, which I think is a good question.
Yeah, I've got like a little cheat sheet of per chakra, my top ones. Happy to share.
Well, thank you so much, Angelika. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. If you would like to know more about Angelika and her business, you can head to Reiki and Tea. We also have a lot of great things we're doing at the library. We do virtual yoga, chair yoga, meditation weekly. So if you guys are interested, you can follow us on social media, NBP Library, or at nbpl.org. Thank you all so much for joining us, and we hope you have a great week.
Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.